Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and with the release of Throne of Eldraine right around the corner, there is one thing that everybody has been wondering. The story, or lore, behind the sets for the last, at least 12 sets has been just absolutely at a fever pitch because they're bringing back old characters and wrapping up storylines that have been going on for 10 plus years. And now with the absolutely disappointing disaster of a book that was released to wrap it all up, poorly and misrepresent the characters and their motivations, their backstories, and their personalities. Everybody's pretty pissed, but you gotta say the story kind of reset. Nicol Bolas was dealt with. I heard recently there's something going on with Liliana. I don't know. I didn't read the book. But other than that, there's really no significant place to go or significant thing to do. Thus, it's time for a giant story reset. So then we go to Fairy Tale Land with two characters that we know next to nothing about, which is the Kenrith twins. So I'm thinking, well, that would be kind of a fun little thing to be like its own story, kind of like The Last Unset. It did kind of have its own mini-story. It was more implied than told, and I think we just saw some background information that was more like non-fiction than an actual, story. Well, it was fictional, but, in the universe, it was non-fictional. It was historic, it was facts, it was just information. It was not characters and things happening. And of course, the Kenrith, I just don't want to say twins, I don't quite remember if they're twins or siblings, whatever. But when they were in the Battlebond set, which is the first place they ever showed up, I don't believe we knew what plane they were from, why they were there or anything. We just knew, okay, gladiatorial combat, this is kind of the culture. It was kind of the same thing. It's like, here's a setup, and they were not really going to tell a story. It's just, here's a neat thing. It was like watching a nature documentary. I got the feeling of, isn't this kind of nice to look at and think about? And look at this site, look at this art, look at this character. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I guarantee you with this being a standard set, they are not going to do that. And in fact, they've guaranteed they're not going to do that. In case you don't remember, all of the lore that you can gain for free is going to be on the cards, which is obnoxious. If you want the full lore, you got to buy, I believe it's the ebook, and I believe they lowered it to $3.99. And also, it's written by the writer of, I think it was M19, that storyline, which was quite good. She's very talented. I almost guarantee you the book will be good. That said, do you know how many churros I can get at Taco John's for $3.99? The answer is enough that I'm not going to buy the book. Plus, I don't care if it was 99 cents. I'm not going to buy it on principle. Stop paywalling what some people consider to be the most important thing and most enjoyable thing about a new product. Because even if I hated the Aether Revolt set, which I did, at least I could read the Kaladesh storyline and get something from that and appreciate the cards because of that. So it's kind of like the backup plan in case the set flops financially or, play-wise. Well, the backup plan and the safety net are gone now. That is, unless you have a large amount of time to read a large amount of stuff and $3.99. And that's if I'm even remembering the price correctly. I really don't even care to look it up. I'm so pissed off that they're even doing this. So let's compare the last two books, I guess you would say, to come out. We've got the Vampire Guy from Innistrad, which I've heard that's amazing. It's, Davriel or whatever his name is. It was the ebook. The guy wrote it just because he wanted to. Wizards was like, okay, cool. Probably tossed him a little bit of money. Then they gave it out for free. Wonderful way to do it. Wonderful story. I heard it was just exceptionally well written. The story was interesting. The characters were interesting. Then we got War of the Spark. Terrible. Untalented hack rushing it or whatever the hell made it be so bad. I don't know. Then they charged a ton of money for it and everybody hated it and it ruined everything, but it was hyper important. Now you go back to the Davriel story, it was standalone. It was just a thing. Yeah, it occurred on a plane and it probably involved some characters we've heard of. I don't know, I didn't read it. Purely, by the way, just because of a time issue. But it was its own little standalone thing. And yeah, Davriel did end up in War of the Spark. So it's not like it was a complete island where we're never going to see the characters again. So two styles, two stories, two drastically different approaches and results. So the question is, will the upcoming Throne of Eldraine storyline be a standalone, just its own story, things happen and then we leave and maybe there's some callbacks, maybe we see some characters, but that's it. It's not like, here's what's going on now. Here's the Gatewatch. Here's a threat that could involve the Gatewatch in the future, because I think it's pretty clear the Gatewatch isn't in this set. Hey, anything's possible, but it really doesn't look like it. Well, I think that they pulled in an author who has written important lore in the past, really keeps it at 50-50 in my head. Like how important or how standalone, how involved, how future relevant the story will be Well, she wrote some pretty important stuff for the last time she wrote the story chapters, which were available, by the way, for free on the internet. So I guess that would be the third example. It was the whole "is Ugin dead" thing. Bola shows up, looks for him, and then we had Grandma Dragonclaw. It was that whole thing. So would they trust this particular author to have the knowledge, experience, and skill and effort, I guess you would say, to properly handle the actual lore, something that will be important and referenced for like the next 5 to 10 years potentially? I think so, because they have. That said, the other dude just came and said, "Hey, I want to write something. Davriel, cool, its own thing, done." But she has worked for Wizards before, so it's like, would she do the same thing? Come say, "I just want to write a story." Well, you already did. Like, it doesn't make sense. So with her writing the book this time around, sorry, I did forget her name in case it's not obvious by now. I think that they will set up a very elaborate beginning to a story. I'd almost lean a little bit more towards, no, they're going to take the easy route out and this is going to be an enclosed thing. It's its own thing. That's it. I think realistically that's very slightly more possible, but it's more interesting to think what would happen in the storyline and the lore if it actually is like an important setup for the next couple sets, bare minimum. And I came up with the greatest idea. I don't think realistically that I'm accurate. It's a complete shot in the dark. And obviously this isn't based on anything, no hearsay, information leaks, nothing. But if I were to do it, I would do not another character-based villain, because we've had so many characters, so many planeswalkers. We need a more generic threat. It works better for sci-fi. It's a better premise for sci-fi, both series and movies. And I'm referring to like a vague enemy, like not only just it would start with like a mystery, weird things happening, and then at the end they reveal the enemy. It could be something more like, oh, they show up to the plane, they came back from Battlebond, the Kenrith people or whatever the names are, and oh, there's this big threat to the kingdom, and they don't know what it is, and it's like some big shadowy force, but like it's not a person, it's just like a thing that's happening. Maybe the mana ley lines are collapsing and they don't know the cause of it, and then 5 sets later we find out it's the Eldrazi. But I think the best premise for how to pull this off correctly, and sorry if you haven't seen it, is the movie The Neverending Story, which in the last 2 takes I called The Neverwinter Story. Specifically number 2, I should say, the second movie. The better movie, I just started World War III in the comment section. I don't care, because you know what? The second movie was better. If you disagree, you are wrong. Fight me. So anyway, what was taking over? The fantastical, fanciful, weird, like almost cliche, because it was coming from an old book and it was supposed to be like a fairy tale book, like random fantasy world of, I legit forgot the name of the world. I thought it would come to me. Whatever the hell the world was called, it was being taken over by the Nothing. And I mean, could you have a better, like, classic, kind of kid-friendly, kind of fairy tale-ish villain than just the Nothing? It's just a force. What's causing it? What's behind it? They got to investigate it. They got to run for it. But it's huge. I mean, it kind of reminded me of the movie The Langoliers, and I assume also the book by Stephen King. And The Langoliers, by the way, was an excellent movie. I don't care what anybody says. I give it a 10 out of 10. I don't care if you didn't like it. It was an absolute work of art. But if you haven't seen the movie, oh my gosh, just go see it. I'm sure it's on some platform somewhere. I mean, come on. But, they start with mysterious events, occurrences. They don't know what's happening. They're on a plane. They land it. And not really spoilers, by the way. But then they start to hear something in the distance. And it's getting closer and closer and closer. And it sounds scary. The girl who's kind of psychic-ish or something, she keeps saying it's dangerous. She knows it's like going to harm them. But they don't know what it is, and it's just getting closer. And that same premise kind of worked for Jaws, where they say the less you see of the shark, the better, because then you're just like, oh, it's out there somewhere. It's coming. So these foreboding, mystery, big forces that are, all powerful and super destructive, it seems at the time. Wonderful setup. I mean, if you make the villain just a thing, an occurrence, a force, that's, in my opinion, in some cases, more interesting than a character-based villain. And like I said, they just did that. They just had Bolas. Then we had like Tezzeret, we had some other baddies. Do we need another Planeswalker villain? Not really. Like, it would be interesting, but it would be the boring, easy choice. I want to see some big, mysterious occurrence, a force, a change, something happening to, like, the interplanar area. What do they call it? The Blind Eternities. Something happening to all the mana and spreading between planes. I want to see what happened to like Innistrad before Emrakul showed up, where biological things just started warping and like madness started happening and they didn't really know what it was, but then it became more apparent. And then it was pinned on a villain. And even then, Emrakul doesn't really have a personality. She does have more of like a tendency, a logic, and a personality in the traditional sense than the other two Eldrazi, but it was more of a force than a true character villain. And that's why it worked, and people loved that section of the storyline. Absolutely loved it. Then they did like the tie-in puzzle with the scrambly word things or whatever on the back of the tokens or whatever they did. Then they had the puzzle that legitimately took like multiple weeks to solve, where it was on the clues and it was the numbers and like different versions on the book in the art, or no, not the art, the flavor text. The build-up, the mystery, the setup, and everything, and people were speculating, and some of my most viewed videos of all time are about the Emrakul theory. And then the parody video about Space Jace, which that was one of the dumbest videos I've ever made, and it was freaking hilarious. I pretended to put all the clues together in something that looked logical on the surface, was practically a parody of like flat earth level stupidity. Like, yeah, it appears to fit together on the surface, but also it's absolutely batshit crazy. But anything involving the lore, people loved it, whether it was fake or parody or real. So I don't care if they do like, oh, there are new planes being created, which is supposed to be impossible. How did that happen? Who's doing it? What are in the planes? And then like something like a new threat. Like I'm watching Stargate SG-1. I know that eventually the replicators become a threat. So they're the new thing. But it's not a character, because remember, they had villains. They had the Goa'uld. They had the System Lords. They killed this one, this one, this one, this one. And it's like, let's just have a robot force. Let's just have like a natural repeating thing, kind of rip off the Borg a little bit, but to a lesser extent, less personality. And let's just try stopping this. And then what if they have like an entire plane where all of a sudden like all the red mana goes missing? I know like logically they'd have to basically print an entire set without the color red, but let's be honest, good riddance. I feel like that would be going way too far to just serve the lore. But I mean, think about something like that. The basic fabric of the universe and how things work and how creatures exist on planes would be threatened, and we wouldn't know what's causing it, and then we'd kind of figure it out more and more and more. That would get people back into the lore. So, what better time to set up some mysterious, big, cliche as all hell but still interesting mystery force than a fairy tale set? And they even said they're going to be their own twist on fairy tales. So it doesn't even have to be classical good guy versus villain, whatever they win in the end, because like I said, that's boring, that's cliche, not the right way to do it. If they do their own twist on it, it could be like this overarching thing that's mind controlling people, and that's what's causing like good guys to go bad, which it sounds like is probably going to be the gimmick in the set. And honestly, the fact that they reference the throne and just how concerned the people look in the artwork, I don't know if you noticed that or not, just the facial expressions, it seems to be like worried, like they're very concerned about something. I think that the entire kingdom is under a threat by something, and I don't think it's local. Although, like I said, realistically, do I think they're going to set up some whole huge thing when they're just like, let's do a Fairy Tale set, it'll be fun. Let's just take a vacation from the main storyline and just go here, do our own thing, then resume. Because it makes the most sense strategically, because people are kind of sick of the storyline at this point from following it, so they just want a standalone break where you're just like, oh, that was a neat side story. So realistically, I think maybe a 55-60% chance of them doing that, but that little other chance, a little 40% remaining, oh, they could be setting up something big. So what would be the coolest villain / natural disaster / force / thing that needs to be stopped that you would like to see, I hate to say it, but the Gatewatch or like whoever, it doesn't matter at this point, go up against in the future? What do you want to see threaten the planes, the multiverse, or whatever? Come up with your best idea. Leave it down in the comment section. Otherwise, I'd like to mention that they could do the old double bluff, where it looks like it's a standalone story, but whatever's happening, they're like, yay, we defeated the villain, we saved the kingdom, or, you know, the big baddie is gone. And then it turns out, oh, he or she was only responsible for, oh, I don't know, maybe half of the things that occurred in the story. Well, now they have a mystery. What caused the rest? I didn't know we had two things we were going up against. And then kind of feeds into the next story, and then it feeds into the next one, and eventually, Emrakul reveals her angel avatar form of the Wanderer and fights the final boss or the cause or repairs the whatever. So you look back and you're like, oh, I thought that was a standalone story, but they were dropping hints and establishing the new villain, the new force, the new thing they have to stop. But it slid under everybody's radar. Maybe it was hinted at. Maybe it's almost like a post-credit scene. The last couple paragraphs will set up, oh, wait a minute. oh, someone else was behind this. Oh, something else was behind this. Oh, they misinterpreted this. You know, a little twist ending. I think that would be kind of cool. So even if it looks like in the book that's going to come out for the Throne of Eldraine, if it looks like it's just its own thing, watch little details and watch for what appear to be plot holes, but are actually probably just unresolved things that will be referenced in the future. And yeah, I mean, I kind of do want to pay $3.99 just to find out now, but I'm not going to because I'm not going to pay for the lore. I'm just not. I don't care how badly I want it. Principle, okay? Principle. We need to send Wizards a message that this is not acceptable. Yes, it's literally an entire book of lore that they had to pay somebody to write for the cost of one pack. I don't care. The lore used to be free. That's why people followed it. Stop paywalling it. Not everybody has money. Not everybody has a credit card. Not everybody subscribes to an ebook service. I barely use my Amazon account. I think I haven't touched it in 5 years. They just need to stop with this crap. It's so low that it's like, why bother? Why not make it 0? You'll triple your readership, if not 10x your readership. Probably 50x. I mean, who's realistically going to buy this and read it? It's just so dumb. And then people might go back and buy it later when they find out, oh, these little details were actually important to what's happening now, like a year later. So I almost hope it is its own thing that's unimportant and irrelevant to anything else, so I can not care about the story, the characters, or anything and not buy it. But then think about that. If they really wanted to sell the book, wouldn't they make it important? Wouldn't they make it part of a multi-year storyline? I kind of feel like they would. But I also kind of feel like they'd take a break after War of the Spark wrapped up. So, I don't know. That's why I'm so on the fence about this. And it's going to be really interesting to just hear a summary of the book and see what people think about what's going on. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your wanton speculation down in the comment section. And I will see you guys next video.